Up next, we've got a great conversation with Kevin Blocher from Truckers Insurance. Kevin's been part of the team for a while, and he's played a big role in helping it grow and evolve. We talked about how he approaches leadership, what's changing in the insurance world, and how he's keeping truckers moving forward. You definitely want to stick around for this one. All right. Thanks for joining Halo Labs. I've got Kevin Blocher with me here today. Truckers Insurance. I'm really happy to see you. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Awesome. Excellent. Excellent. Let's jump right into it. So, one of the things that we talked about earlier is essentially just getting to know you, understanding who you are, where you came from, what the motivation was, your story. So, have at it. How'd you get into it? Where'd you come from?
Yeah, so a lot of people do not choose to go into insurance. They kind of
I've heard
stumble
that.
into it, and that is true for my story as well. I have a business degree from Purdue University, and I needed a job. And I also was dating a girl remotely who was in Iowa. And so I kind of chased a girl to Iowa and I responded to an ad just in the newspaper, which is where job postings used to be, for just an associate underwriter position at this little insurance company that I'd never heard of. And, 24 years later, the girlfriend is long gone, and has been for 23 and a half
I
years.
was going to ask, did it
And
at least become your wife?
and the job is still where I am. So it's worked out better than I expected on both fronts. So, I have a brother who's an actuary, so I heard some things about the insurance industry that maybe I didn't like, because that's more in the heavy data analytics, the part that sounded really boring. But what I didn't realize as I got into underwriting and truckers insurance is the people side. And there's still plenty of math. There's still plenty of data to be looked at. And I enjoy that part to a degree. I just didn't want to spend all of my time in that. But what I found at Truckers is the people side, the customer service side, the bringing expertise to a situation where someone doesn't have expertise, and it can improve their life, their job, and improve their income because they're able to write business with my help. And so that's been a really enjoyable and satisfying component to what we do. We're a small MGA, managing general agent, so we work with independent agents across the country. All we do is truck. That's our expertise. That's all we do. We're not dabbling in personal auto. We're not dabbling in all the other things that a lot of retail agents have to do to survive. We're not writing renters policies, for example, but we know truck. And a lot of retail agents will come to us saying, hey, I stumbled onto this truck account. I noticed the neighbor has a truck in his driveway, and so I approached him, but I don't really know what I'm doing. Can you help? And that's a perfect situation for us to say, yeah, we'll tell you all the things to ask. We'll get this done for you, and we'll get you a quote quickly so that you can be the star of the neighborhood in landing your neighbor's business. So that's really the appeal to this. In leadership as well, I get to watch people grow. I get to hire people that don't know anything and watch them become really good underwriters, really good communicators with their agents. And there's just a lot of things like that I get to enjoy watching, as in my position that I'm doing now.
So you're building long lasting relationships
Oh,
because
absolutely.
trucking is the backbone of transportation and getting
Yes.
goods from A to B for the
Yes.
last 50, 60 years, if not longer. So
Yeah.
it's a good space to be in.
And luckily, it's a largely recession-proof insurance industry. Trucks are always going to move. In hard times, there might be a few fewer of them, and in good times, there might be a lot of them, but there's always going to be trucks moving, and they're always going to need insurance. And so it's been a really stable type of insurance for me to be connected to all these years.
That's excellent. That's really amazing. I mean, the people piece is really huge. That's something that I like as well. And one of the reasons why I like doing this is getting on the screen and meeting new people, which is pretty great because ultimately I'm stuck in my house and I don't really go anywhere.
Sure.
But no, that's awesome. So, what would you say are some of the the major differentiators between, because you said trucks only, right? I only work with trucks. What's the draw for that aside from the people thing? Is it I don't know. Is it easier? Is it more complex? Is there more wiggle room for getting creative on how you can help folks?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a depth of knowledge for one thing. Truck insurance is a completely different animal, and just a lot of agents just don't understand it. There big problems happen. There's complexities with what the commodity is. There's a lot of nuance there that requires a level of expertise that I enjoy. I'm not saying that there's any problem with being a generalist. If I were a retail agent, I think that probably err that side as well, just because that's you got to go where the money is. But I enjoy being a specialist here because there's so much depth of knowledge and yes, depth of relationships. We deal with truck specialist retail agents, and there's a shorthand to that. They know exactly what we need. They present perfect applications that are complete. We can speak in shorthand when we communicate and when we talk through a quote, down to a mom and pop shop where they see one truck account in their whole careers, and we can talk through it and really elaborate on what is it that we're actually selling. So we enjoy the spectrum of that as well. But yeah, being a specialist is enjoyable for a lot of those reasons. And it's also just where I landed my first job and where I've stayed
Yeah, and you grew
this
it.
whole time. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with what I know, and the various opportunities have presented themselves over the years for other positions, and in many situations, I just said, you know what, I know what I'm doing here. I can continue to grow here. I can continue to gain more knowledge and more understanding of the industry in this position. I'm starting from scratch over there, and I really want to be the guy that knows what he's talking about. So
Yeah. Stick with what you know.
that's been enjoyable.
Yeah, that's really great. So then when you're talking about your depth of expertise, do you have a different model of offer, would you say? Or I guess how do you not necessarily get creative, but what really makes you and your offer, aside from your experience, aside from the heart that you put into it, what makes yours different than others?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the expertise where that brings is a sharpness of quotes. It brings an accuracy of quotes. We frankly have competitors that are kicking out quotes that are messy or sloppy, are inaccurate, where an agent has to pick through that quote with a fine tooth comb to make sure that it actually matches what they were wanting. I mean, I think we bring in a, s- a precision to that. Have
That's a good one.
a large, I wouldn't say a large, but we have a quality control department that verifies everything that we do. Does the quote match the application, match what the insured was actually wanting? We place a high value on that precision and making sure that everything is accurate. The other thing several other things that we bring to the table is we really only contract with high quality insurance companies. There's a lot of fly by night insurance companies that are out there that might have the hot hand for a year and then go out of business because they didn't really know
Mm,
what they were doing. Maybe their coverages are poor. Maybe their pricing is just out of line with what the industry is. We really try hard to find high quality, durable insurance companies that we can contract with so that when we put our name on that piece of paper alongside of that insurance company, that we can all feel good about that. And I think that helps the retail agent feel confident that what they're being sold is something that they can also put their name on. The other thing that we bring to the table is just an expertise in the rating systems and the nuances of what they bring. If I present a quote and the agent says, we're 10% high on this. Is there anything you can do? Generally speaking, there's something that I can come up with that's gonna squeeze something out of that quote. 10%, it might be 4%, it might be 7%. But we're gonna be able to squeeze something. I'm gonna be able to ask questions. Well, tell me more about the routes. Tell me more about the commodities that they're hauling. Maybe there's some additional nuance that we can find that's gonna bring the price down a little bit. And if you don't really know what you're doing, you don't know where to even look for that extra 10%. And so I think that's another thing that we bring to the table that a lot of other truck companies maybe not able to focus on as much.
yeah, that's a lot of value. I mean, it sounds like you said, the diversity and expertise, things that you've seen, and the
Sure.
people that you work with is bringing a lot of value. That's pretty amazing. I mean, that's huge.
And we're a family-run operation, so
That's
we
excellent.
we value the customer. There have been times where something went wrong, and we found a way to bring resolution when it maybe wasn't our fault, but we still found a way to eat some of the problem, make it so that everything was okay so that we can write the account long term or have a long term relationship with that agent. Things go haywire at times, and
Yeah, for
that's
sure.
just the nature of insurance, and that happens. But we really value those long term relationships. We have agents that have been with us for 30, 40 years. We have accounts that have been on the books for over 50 years. So, that means something
It's
to us.
loyalty for
Now,
sure.
boy, I don't want to be the guy standing post that day when we lose that account or when we anger that agent. So it's important for us to maintain those longer term relationships. And it served us for 82 years. We've been in business for 82 years at this point. So, and we hope to be in business another 82 years.
Or longer for sure.
The industry is interesting when it comes to companies like ours. There's a
Mhm.
lot of consolidation out there. There's a lot of family run businesses that sell out to larger corporations, and we are fiercely independent in where we are. But that means that we are competing against larger networks. And yes, they're bigger, and I can't deny that. However, they sometimes don't know what they're talking about.
Bigger
So
doesn't mean
I
better.
think I think that's a key difference. So being a single shop operation, you're going to get a pretty similar answer from me as you are from other people within the office. And when you are a network of different branches spread over the country where they never talk and they don't really have they vastly different levels of experience, you might get vastly different answers on the same question. So, I think there's some strength in our independence and strength in our single shop operation as well.
Definitely. So, based on all that, what kinds of things are keeping you guys busy?
What's keeping us busy? What's keeping us busy is the same thing that's always kept us busy, which is truck submissions. Where the struggle is these days is there's a lot of trucking companies out there that are just not that great, that are not well run, that maybe don't value holding onto drivers very well, who maybe don't take safety that seriously, things of that nature. And there's so much more data today than there was 24 years ago when I started this business that it all comes to light. And so there's a lot, just like we partner with high quality insurance companies, we're really looking for well-run trucking companies that operate with integrity. We're not looking for those that are a little shady with the details or who are trying to have short-term gains at the expense of long-term profitability and long-term success. And so that leads to us seeing a lot of trucking companies in submission form that we just can't quote. They're just
Sure.
not up to snuff.
Sure.
That's a struggle. And we wish that every account that came in could be quoted with a high quality market, but they just can't. And so some are left to be written by, the lesser insurance companies in the industry. And I won't name them, but the audience knows who they are. But I wish that there were that our flow had more of the higher quality of that we frankly run into is agents that don't know what we need or who are not detailed in their submissions. So I would say 60 to 70% of our submissions come in requiring significant amounts of questions to be answered. Of, hey, you didn't fill out this part of the app. Hey, this doesn't make sense what you put here. And we will have to clarify all of that before we're able to put a quote on the table. And, that's fine. That's part of the customer service experience, that we are patient and we work through that with you. There are companies out there that will just be harsh and say, we won't even accept the submission until it's complete. That's not how we write business. That's not good for anybody. But it does mean that there's a lot of back and forth that can take a lot of time. So that's a component that is not ideal. And being able to train up retail agents on what is needed and what constitutes a complete quote is something that we do on a fairly daily basis, and continue to strive to do that.
So then is that forgive me if I don't necessarily know it. So it sounds like what you're describing is you've got these interactions and then there's a certain either not necessarily amount, but there's an accuracy to the data that you're bringing in order to help you formulate either how you're quoting, how you're writing, the information you may or may not be missing. When it comes to that data, how is that? Are you just leaving it up to your potential customers to provide that to you? Are you having people go get that data? How are you this
Yeah.
world where everything is connected and, everything is ultimately available. How are you doing that?
Yeah, so there are some sources that are outside the relationship with the retail agent where we can obtain data. The Central Analysis Bureau is a company that provides a great deal of data on trucking companies. There's also publicly available data points. Safer is a website that we can access. That's a government run that provides some information. There's also information to be had from Secretary of State website. Who is the owner of this company? When did they incorporate? We can pull data from places like that to kind of round out the picture.
Hmm.
But there's still a great amount of data that has to come from the retail agent.
Yeah.
Um,
People.
a trucking company that has 8 drivers who hired them all last month is a vastly different quality company
Yeah.
than an 8 truck account that has
For
had
years.
the same drivers for the last 7, 8 years. Qualitatively, they're not even in the same ballpark. So it's important to have all of those data points, and that's just one of a couple of dozen frequently missed data points is dates of hire for the drivers. So for the most part, yes, we are asking the retail agent. That is who has the relationship with the trucking company. There are outside sources where we can kind of verify and make sure it makes sense. IFTA reports that International Fuel Tax Agreement reports that show what states that trucking company is traveling in. And there's a high value on saying, do the IFTA reports match the application's radius? The application says they're staying in a 300-mile radius of Utah, and the IFTAs show that they're going to New York and Florida all the time.
Oh,
Okay,
wow.
this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
We have to ask questions to make sure that we understand what's really going on here.
So the logistics matter when it comes to,
Absolutely.
wow, I didn't even know that. Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, an account that goes to Miami every day is going to have more losses than an account that stays in rural Iowa. That's just a matter of statistics. Things like cargo theft become a much bigger deal depending on if you're going into the wrong cities, things of that nature. So all of that has to kind of make sense from an underwriting standpoint. Applications frequently have questions that feel like the same question that you asked on the previous page, but it's all to try to pin down what's actually going on with this trucking company. So the trucking companies that are well run, that are on consistent routes, that know their commodity that they're hauling, that have a consistency of drivers and a stability of all of those things, it's going to have half the price or less than half the price of an account that is taking whatever load they can find, hiring whatever
Just to make a
24-year-old
buck.
they can find that doesn't have any experience, who has losses left and right. That's a company that's going to be paying double, triple, quadruple the price on insurance, and frankly is going to be out of business in a couple of years
Very quickly, for
because they
sure.
just are not going to be able to maintain the rate of the safety and all the things
Right.
that are needed to
Yeah.
stay in business.
It almost sounds
So
like slow and steady wins the race.
absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, a stable trucking company is much easier to quote and much easier to find a cheaper price than a company that is erratic
So
in all kinds of ways.
I have to ask, with all the conversation about automated trucks and all of that, in your opinion, what's the future of that entire line of thinking, right? When it
Yeah.
goes to automation, how is data going to change that industry, and what do you think will happen, or what do you foresee happening?
Well, let me tell you how data has changed the industry to this point, because again, there's a tremendous amount of data available today that was not available 24 years ago when I
Sure.
started this. All of those inspections, all of the telematic data that insurance companies are now collecting on the trucking companies to see, are they hard braking, are they speeding, are they doing things that are not safe. All of that has served to improve and tighten the insurance industry and allow them to have better rates for the best run accounts and worse rates for the worst run accounts. And that the amount of nuance that's been baked into that process over those 2 decades is enormously different. So the data has already impacted the industry tremendously. Now, getting back to your question about
Mhm.
automated trucks have been 5 years off for the last 20 years.
When you say 5
And
years off, what do you mean, like in
I
terms of like
mean,
they're not ready, or they're just
they're
keep
not
making
ready.
mistakes that they're pushing it out?
They're not ready.
Okay.
They're very limited situations where there are some driverless trucks that are out there. They're very limited. They don't work that well. It's got some problems. And the reality is, if you've got an 80,000-pound missile going down the road, where if it hits something, it
Yeah.
kills someone,
Right. And no one's driving, then what?
there's a hesitancy in our society to trust an AI device or to trust the cameras on that truck, to trust all the things that go into that, to trust the ethics. You'd have to bake ethics into an AI on determining, do I hit that wall or do I hit this person on the other side? Despite the flaws of humans, we actually trust a trained human more than we would
Because we
trust
want people to
an
be
AI.
good. Like we want that we want to believe that they're going to be good, right?
So where we have seen the automated trucks work is in situations where weather is really not a factor,
Or like
where
smaller scenarios, maybe like local.
smaller scenarios where it doesn't rain, where it doesn't snow, where the camera is going to work, where the
Yeah.
camera can be replaced constantly. I'm not worried about automated trucks. I don't see it coming into being in my career, to be honest.
Okay.
If it does, I
Yeah.
am also working with a lot of really good insurance companies who will pivot to be able to handle that.
I
So,
would foresee insurance premiums going up then, right? Especially out the gate.
I think it depends a lot on any other technology. How are they employing it? Here's a microcosm. 15, 20 years ago, half the calls that I received were, hey, I added a deer guard to the front of my truck. How much of a discount do I get? And the answer was, okay, well, you're going to save on your deductible because you're not going to be paying your deductible when you damage your truck, when you hit a deer. And also, we're not going to give you a discount for every good decision that you make. You should make the decision because it's a good business decision for you. The other component of that is, what are you doing with data? So there's all this data that's available. You can look at how your driver is doing. You can see if they're hard braking, if they're speeding, if they're idling too much. You can see all of these things. Are you actually using that data to train your driver to be a better driver? If you are, then yeah, you're using that technology in a way that will improve your company long term. If you're not using the technology, so getting back to the automated trucks, are you collecting data that's actually going to help? Are you just trying to get data so you can save money on a driver? I honestly don't see it happening in my career. That's probably not what you're expecting me to tell you, but
No,
I
no, that's all right.
think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bad ideas in the industry right
There's
now.
probably more bad ideas than good ideas.
There's a lot of bad ideas that get a lot of traction.
Yeah.
The other bad idea that's out there is electric trucks.
Well,
And
that was one of the reasons why I asked you that. Two
yeah,
reasons. I have a friend who, through his family, knows Cryle Camp Trucking out of Wisconsin. I don't know
okay.
if you've heard of them or not.
Nope.
Small family-owned company. And one of the reasons I brought up automated trucks was because one of the problems that they have a lot is keeping quality drivers. Like they've got like two that they've had for a long time, but then they keep circling through other ones. And so one of the things that they've talked about is like the automated trucks, because then you don't need to deal with, drivers who are unreliable. And then the other piece was I was in Ireland about 8 years ago, and I don't know if you've been, but the roads are very, very thin. Now their trucks are not like ours, right? They don't have semis. They're about half the size, maybe a little bit smaller. But I recall my wife and I were crossing the street because we're going out to dinner, and there was a small truck, and I think it was a Samsung truck. And I was like, that's weird. I've never seen a Samsung truck. And I remember kind of doing a double take because there was no one driving it. And it wasn't making any noise. It must have been electric, because normally even when trucks idle, there's a noise coming from it. But this thing was silent. And as cars said, oh, look, it's an automated truck. And then halfway through it, I was like, it's an automated truck. And I stood there for a minute and I watched it go.
Yeah.
And so if from the perspective of where the driver's seat would have been to the right, it was a bridge and water, and so like one oopsie do and he's in the water, and
Yeah.
it was flawless for the 30, 40 seconds I walked through this thing. And this was 8 years ago.
Yeah. And there, like I said, there are small narrow situations where they might be able to make it work. Again, with a semi truck, with
Big difference.
something that's that heavy and that needs to go that far, it doesn't seem to be viable. The reason I said electric is something that's not viable. A typical semi truck is about 80,000 pounds. And of that 80,000 pounds, they're hauling at most, unless they're an oversized, if they're a typical load, they're hauling 35,000 pounds worth of freight. There's that. If you were to have an all electric semi truck,
The batteries alone.
the batteries on that truck would be about 15,000 pounds.
So you're going to have to reduce the amount you
It
can
would
haul.
add 15,000 pounds to the weight of the truck. It's then it begs these questions of, oh, well, um, we have regulated trucks to be around 80,000 pounds because we don't want them to damage the roads. So if we have 15,000 more pounds, does that reduce the amount of freight that they can haul?
It has to.
In which case,
You
you're
need two
just going to
trucks.
have more trucks on the road, causing damage to the roads, buying tires, all of those things.
Yeah,
So
the
the
ecosystem is
environmental
very
impact of that is worse. Um,
interesting.
or we allow them to be heavier, which again adds more wear and tear on the roads. And that truck can only go maybe 300 miles before it needs to sit and recharge for 6 hours,
Yeah.
as opposed to a diesel truck, which can go a good 600 miles and then refuel and then
And then
go
go again
another 600 miles. And that refueling takes 10 minutes instead of
all night.
multiple hours. So
I mean, I think
it's
to
tough.
this, sorry, but to regardless of the route, I think we still need to improve the technology for our roads. Because if you look at roads in Europe, they're repairing it once and we're repairing ours like 4 or
Sure.
5 times, which is insane.
Absolutely. Now, just touch real quick on the
Yeah.
environmental impact.
Yeah.
The push for electric trucks is due to the environmental impact. The emissions from a truck over the last 30 years has gone. The stat that I remember hearing is it's about 1/60th of what it was 30 years ago. So they're already making
Yeah.
tremendous strides
Yeah,
from
technology for sure.
the emission standpoint. The only real good argument for electric trucks at this point is if you are hyper focused on just the tailpipe. The environmental impact of making those batteries, the impact on the roads, the impact on everything else, you're better off with a traditional diesel truck than you are with an electric truck. But if you're hyper focused on just the tailpipe, yeah, sure, the electric is going to be better than
Yeah.
the
That's a
diesel
very
truck.
small, narrow way to look at it.
Yes. Yeah.
One last thing I wanted to kind of cover with you before we start wrapping up is essentially from your perspective, growth for you. What does growth look like? Because you've expressed the integrity in how you guys work. You're building lasting relationships. You want to be in business for another 82 years. With competition out there and efficiencies that are coming up, what does growth look like for you? What do you need to do? What do you think you need to do? What are maybe, if you could flip a switch, what's the bottleneck you could remove today that would help you guys grow?
Sure. So the history of truckers, we've been in business 82 years. I would say 75 years of that, we did no marketing of any kind. We grew exclusively through word of mouth
Wow.
and reputation, and that worked really well. Starting in Iowa and surrounding states, that worked really well. But the world has changed in the last decade or so in that the different MGAs like us that are out there they've all encroached on each other's territories. So we're not playing nice anymore.
The gloves are off.
So everyone is in our territory. We have had to expand our territory. We are now operating in 37 states. So many agents in the outlying states have never heard of us. So we've had to tremendously ramp up our marketing efforts in order to have our name be out there. Now, what we find is that our message sells well. A retail agent typically prefers to work with a family-owned operation that's been in business for a long time versus, a company that has changed names 4 times because they keep getting bought out and consolidating. So getting that message out is important to us and just being able to reach out to them. As far as you said bottlenecks, I believe you said just being able to stellar service to every submission that comes in. Every submission, whether it's complete or not, deserves a response in rapid time. Whether it's hey, this is something that we can't do, we should tell you that very quickly. If it's, hey, I have 7 questions, okay, let's get on the phone, let's hammer that out right away so we can get a quote on the table. Retail agents want a quote in hand as quickly as possible. They don't want to sit around for 50 days waiting for us to ponder what we want to do. Just being able to stay on top of that it's a challenge. And, we employ extremely intelligent, nice, friendly people, and they do a great job, but there's only so much that one can do. So there are stressors there. There's limitations there. So, that's something that need to continue upping our game on so that we can provide that service
Yeah,
to all of those agents.
that makes sense. It's good information. So any advice, anything that you would I don't know, reflect on? Like what would you want to share with people that are either looking to discover or maybe like stumble into
Yeah.
insurance?
I mean, my advice to a retail agent, which I believe is the target here, is truck is not that hard. So I would encourage you to utilize an MGA like us to explore premiums that can be found with truck insurance. Truck is expensive. Your typical renter's policy is what, $200. Your commission on that is $25. A typical one truck operation might be paying $12,000 a year for insurance. So the commissions are going to be a lot higher than that. So my advice to retail agents is this can be a lucrative field. If it seems weird and hard, we'd enjoy getting a call and talking through that with you. As far as just for people looking to get into the industry, underwriting is something that I did not know about in college. And I am kind of annoyed that I had not heard of it while I was in college because it's such a good fit for a lot of people. Takes a little, it's a little bit of law, it's a little bit of communication, it's a little bit of writing skill, it's a little bit of journalistic investigative skills. It's a little bit of all these things in order to get the deal done and in order to bring success to your company. And that's really fun and appealing. And I think that would be fun to a lot of people. So
Keeps you on your toes.
I would tout underwriting as a field to explore. None of that mortgage underwriting stuff. That sounds boring to me. But property casualty insurance underwriting, I think there's a lot there that a lot of people would enjoy. So I'd encourage that to be a field that folks look into.
Awesome. So where would you want to channel people to? Like if people are looking for truckers,
Yeah,
how'd
so
you
our
get people over to
website
you?
is truckers-insurance.com or truckers-insurance.com. You can sign up to be an agent with us right on the website or get a quote. You might find us on LinkedIn. You might find us on Facebook as well. So we're pretty active and we'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Kevin, thank you so much for all the knowledge and the experience and sharing everything and being on here with me today. I really, really do
Yeah,
appreciate it.
appreciate it.
Yeah, I look forward
Thank
to
you.
talking again.